Hey there! Today I'm testing the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 970 in Beam and G Drive. I am pairing it with a i5-13400F CPU, 32GB of DDR4 RAM at 3200 MHz, a SSD for the game drive and the boot drive, and of course I am pairing it with the latest NVIDIA drivers. Starting off, I am testing 1080p on the normal settings, and on the normal settings the game is running absolutely amazingly. It is getting around 77 frames per second on average with a 1% low of 61. Driving through the forest area it dips a little bit, and then driving through the city it dips a little bit, but overall it's a 60 plus FPS experience nearly all of the time, if not all of the time. So overall, it is absolutely playable on the GTX 970. Since it ran so good, I decided to ignore the low and lowest settings and instead try out the high settings. And on the high settings, the game was running a little bit slower. It was getting 55 frames per second on average with a 1% low of 44. Overall, the game ran absolutely amazingly. Driving through the foresty areas and entering the city, it was hovering in the upper 40s for a little while, but overall though, it still is a very playable experience, especially for Beam and G Drive. Then I set the game to the Ultra preset and the game was running even slower, but it was still absolutely playable. So on average the game was getting 42 frames per second on average with a 1% low of 33 frames per second. So not great, but absolutely playable even still. But coming from the normal settings and the high settings, I can definitely tell the Ultra settings are a bit more sluggish. I definitely would not recommend the high settings at 1440p. Stick to the 1080p resolution for the high and ultra preset. Normal, you might be able to get away with 1440p, but altogether, stay away from 4K with this graphics card. Next, I set the game to my custom high settings. When I say my settings, it's not my settings. It's just a setting that I like to set the game to. I try to turn some of the graphical intensive things down while keeping the visuals as nice as possible. I went a little bit higher than I normally would for the settings because we have some extra power to spare with this graphics card, and you were able to see the settings back there when I showed you them. Either way, the game is running absolutely amazingly, and it looks amazing too. It's not blurry, there's no motion blur, and the game is getting about 73 frames per second on average with a 1% low of 54. Sure, it is not a 60 plus FPS experience all of the time, but certainly feels like it, and it certainly is a very playable and great looking gameplay experience. Either way, if you have a GTX 970 and still like it, let me know. If there's any videos you'd like me to make on the GTX 970 in specific games, also let me know, because, well, I don't know what to test on this graphics card. Either way, thank you very much for watching this video. If you could leave a like, that would be amazing. If you're new to the channel and want to see more of these videos, if you could subscribe, that would be amazing as well. And if you want to help support the channel, consider becoming a channel member. Either way, thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.